My sister didn't invite me to her wedding because I work as a garbage collector, so I cancelled her wedding party. My name is Lyle Branner, and I'm 31 years old. I live in a modest apartment on the east edge of Carver, Nevada, a city where the wind kicks up the dust more than the gossip, and folks generally leave you alone unless they need something. I work as a sanitation worker. A garbage man, if we're being blunt. It's not a job many kids dream of doing, and it's not one that gets admiring glances at weddings or reunions. But it's honest, it's union, and it lets me clock out by 2 in the afternoon. Most mornings, I'm up by 3:30. My boots hit the floor before the sun even thinks about rising. I meet my crew, 2 guys who become my family in ways my blood hasn't, by 4:15, and by 4:30, we're rumbling down sleepy streets, the truck's engine purring like a battle tank. The city is still, quiet, peaceful. It's one of the only times I feel like I have the whole world to myself. But that's just my day job. What most people don't know, certainly not my family, is that for the past 5 years, I've been building a business. I find discarded car parts on my route or hunt them down at estate sales and online auctions. I clean, restore, verify, and resell them. Sometimes I spend a weekend elbow deep in rust and grease, coaxing beauty out of neglect. It started as a hobby. Last year, it brought in over $115,000. Quietly. Legally. Fully taxed and above board. I have a business license, 2 rented storage units, and a small restoration workshop in a converted garage. No one in my family knows this. They think of me as just Lyle, the garbage man. Especially my younger sister, Marla. Marla has always been the golden child. The one with the framed diplomas, the polished LinkedIn profile, and the wardrobe that looks like it walked out of a catalog. She works in marketing for a luxury lifestyle brand based in Los Angeles. Her job seems to consist of taking aesthetically pleasing photos of moisturizers and going to brunch with influencers. Her apartment has floor-to-ceiling windows, a balcony with a view, and exactly 0 furniture that isn't marble, glass, or gold accented. She and I were never close. Not really. When we were kids, she made it clear she was embarrassed by my love for all things mechanical. While she was winning essay contests and organizing charity car washes, I was learning how to take apart a carburetor blindfolded. Even back then, it felt like I had grease under my fingernails and she had expectations under hers. About 6 weeks ago, I got a call from our dad, Gerald. He's not the type to call just to catch up. In fact, I can probably count on one hand how many times he's called me without needing something. So when his name lit up my phone at 8:12 p.m. on a Tuesday, I already knew something was up. Lyle, he said with that forced cheerfulness that usually preceded a request. You got a minute? I wiped the oil off my hands with a shop rag and leaned against the workbench. Sure. What's going on? Well, he said, dragging it out like he was buying time, your sister's engaged. I heard, I replied. Marla had posted 24 photos of the ring on social media, each from a slightly different angle, like it was a rare gemstone being auctioned at Sotheby's. She's real excited. They've got their heart set on this venue in Malibu. Cliffside views. You know, the whole fairy tale setup. I didn't say anything. I knew there was a but coming. The thing is, he continued, it's a little pricey. And with everything else they're planning, well, your mother and I are a bit stretched. Marla was hoping we could help with the deposit, but we were wondering if you might be able to assist. There it was. How much? 5,000, he said quickly, like getting the number out fast would make it hurt less. It's just the deposit. The rest is covered. I paused, thinking. 5,000 was a lot, but I had it. Business had been good this quarter. I just sold a set of restored 1968 Camaro rally wheels to a collector in Michigan for nearly $2,000. And despite everything, despite the emotional distance and unspoken judgments, I was still her brother. Yeah, I said. I can do that. Send me the info. That night, Gerald texted me the venue's payment link and event details. I paid the next morning, transferring the funds directly from my business account. I even added a note, congrats on your engagement. Looking forward to celebrating with you both. Lyle. I never got a thank you. Not even a thumbs up emoji. At first, I figured she was busy. Engagements involve a lot of moving parts, guest lists, dress fittings, catering tastings. I told myself I'd get a thank you in person at the party. But then something odd happened. When I texted her to ask what the dress code was, she didn't respond. When I followed up a few days later to ask if I should book a room or crash at our parents' house, she said, still finalizing. When I asked if I could bring a +1, I got radio silence. Even my mom started dodging questions when I brought up the party. Your sister's handling the planning, she'd say, then change the subject to the weather or the price of gas. I was starting to feel a pit grow in my stomach. Then I saw the post. My cousin Eloise uploaded a picture to social media, a beautifully printed invitation in gold foil with little floral corners. Marla and Ethan's engagement party. At the Malibu venue. Date and time confirmed. I checked my mailbox. Nothing. The next day, I texted Marla, hey, did invites go out? Haven't gotten one. 3 hours later, she replied, it's probably better if you sit this one out. That's when I knew. They hadn't just forgotten to include me. They didn't want me there at all. I must have read that text message 15 times. It's probably better if you sit this one out. It didn't even have punctuation. No explanation. No apology. No attempt to soften the blow. For a few minutes, I just sat on the edge of my workbench, staring at my phone. Not moving. Not blinking. Trying to convince myself I had read it wrong or misunderstood. But there it was, in simple black letters. Direct and clear, like a door closing quietly in your face. My first instinct wasn't anger. It was a kind of numbness, a cold, hollow ache that sat square in my chest. The kind of ache that doesn't rise up fast or boil over. It just settles in, slow and steady, like frost creeping across a windowpane. Marla, my sister, had asked for my money. Well, technically, Gerald had done the asking. But it was for her. For her dream. And now, after quietly funding the venue and expecting only a chair in the back and maybe a dry piece of cake for my trouble, I wasn't even welcome to attend. It's hard to describe how small that made me feel. I didn't respond to her text. Some things, I decided, needed to be said in a voice, not typed in a box. So I called her. The phone rang twice before it went to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. The third time, she picked up. What, Lyle? She said, sounding irritated. There was music in the background, clinking silverware, chatter, probably at brunch or a pre-party lunch with her wedding committee. What do you mean, sit this one out? I'm your brother, I said, keeping my voice calm. I paid for that venue. There was a pause. Then a sigh. Lyle, I don't mean this to be rude. But it's just, look, this event is really important. Ethan's family is going to be there, and they're used to a certain kind of crowd. What kind of crowd? I asked evenly. You know. Polished. Professional. People who fit in. It's not just about you. It's about how it reflects on me. On us. So me being there would reflect badly? That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. Another pause. Lyle, you're a sanitation worker. You talk about car parts and scrap metal. You post photos of rusted out bumpers like they're art. I'm not saying you're not valuable in your own way. I'm just saying, it's a different world. Ethan's family comes from influence. His father's on a foundation board. His mother fundraises for international charities. This party isn't just for fun, it's a networking event. And me being there would break the illusion. She hesitated. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I could hear a fork hit a plate in the background. Somewhere nearby, someone laughed. Then she said it. It's not personal. I let out a quiet breath. Marla, I said slowly, that's the most personal thing you've ever said to me. Look, I'm sorry if you're upset. I have to think about what's best for the future. You mean your future, I said. Not ours. She didn't deny it. I ended the call without another word. I sat in silence for almost an hour afterward. And in that silence, something inside me solidified. Not anger, at least not in the usual way. It was colder than that. Clearer. I pulled up the original payment confirmation email from the venue, along with Gerald's message that had included the booking details. Then I called the venue directly. A woman answered, cheerful and courteous. Hi, I said. My name's Lyle Branner. I paid the deposit for a private event on the 18th of next month. I'd like to request a refund. Oh, she said, checking her system. Yes, I see that. However, our deposits are typically non-refundable. I understand, I said, keeping my voice calm. But I paid as a gift. I'm not involved in the actual event anymore, and the person the event is for has declined that gift. Given that the contract hasn't been finalized and no additional payments have been made, I'm asking you to return the deposit. She paused. Please hold for one moment while I check with our event manager. A few minutes later, she came back on the line. We've reviewed your request. Since no signature was submitted on the final agreement and the full balance hasn't been paid, we can issue a full refund and cancel the reservation. That's fine, I said. Send it back to the card I used. 2 days later, $5,000 appeared back in my account like it had never left. I didn't message Marla. I didn't message Gerald. I didn't gloat or send screenshots. I figured they'd find out soon enough. I didn't want to stay in Carver that week. I didn't want to sit around and wonder how the event was going. I didn't want to be tempted to refresh social media or check my messages for updates. So I packed a bag and pointed my truck north. I ended up in a quiet town on the Oregon coast called Willora, a sleepy little spot with less than 1,000 residents, an old bookstore, and a row of rental cabins facing the water. The air there smelled like salt and pine and wood smoke. I stayed in a cabin built sometime in the 1950s, with creaky floors and a porch swing that looked out over the ocean. I left my phone on airplane mode for most of the trip. In the mornings, I hiked the cliffs. In the afternoons, I worked on a driftwood lamp in the cabin's garage. At night, I read by lantern and listened to waves slapping the shore. I slept better than I had in years. Then, 2 days before the party was supposed to happen, I turned my phone back on. And it exploded. The moment I turned my phone off airplane mode, it buzzed so hard it nearly skittered off the nightstand. Notifications poured in like a broken dam, texts, voicemails, missed calls. The screen stuttered under the weight of it. The first call was from Gerald. Then my mom, Delia. Then Marla. Over and over. I didn't answer. I made a cup of coffee and sat on the porch, listening to the gulls squawk in the early morning light. After a long sip, I began going through the voicemails, one by one. The first was Marla. Lyle, the venue just called us. They said the deposit was refunded. What did you do? The party is in 4 days. We need that space. Please, call me back. Then another, 2 hours later. Her voice cracked mid-sentence. Lyle, I don't know why you're doing this. The venue canceled our booking. They said you pulled your payment. We can't find anywhere else that's available on short notice. Can we please just talk? Then came Gerald's message. Short. Stern. Son, your sister is devastated. This was cruel and unnecessary. I don't care what happened between you two, this is family. You need to fix this. And then Delia. Sweetheart, everyone's asking where you are. We don't know what to tell people. Please, we don't have time for this. We need to make arrangements. Don't do this to your sister. None of them said, we're sorry. None of them asked, are you okay? It was all about the party. The image. The performance. I turned my phone off again and took a walk through the tide pools, letting the brine and barnacles ground me. The only thing I felt was peace. I stayed in Willora until the day after the engagement party was supposed to happen. I didn't check social media. I didn't answer any messages. When I returned to Carver, I switched my phone back on, and found nearly 50 missed calls and dozens of messages. I ignored most of them. Except for one. From my cousin Eloise. Her text read. You have no idea how badly that party went. Call me. I did. She answered on the first ring, practically breathless with glee. Lyle. Oh my goodness. You will not believe what happened. Try me. She took a deep breath. Okay. So they tried to move the engagement party to your parents' backyard. Rented a tent last minute. But then it rained. Poured. The tent leaked in 3 places. They brought the wrong size, so it was tight. 50 people squashed in like passengers on a morning subway. I smiled, just a little. Go on. The caterers got confused about the location change. Showed up 2 hours late. People started leaving before the food even arrived. Marla spent half the evening crying in the guest bathroom, and Ethan's mom kept asking why the event wasn't at the venue. She said, loud enough for people to hear, I thought this family had some resources. And Ethan? I asked. That's the best part, she said, lowering her voice as though someone might be listening. He didn't know you paid for the venue. Marla and your dad kept that part a secret. So when Aunt Carol blurted out, in front of everyone, that the deposit was refunded by you, the whole room basically stopped breathing. She what? Oh yeah. She said, isn't this because Lyle pulled his money? Why didn't you just ask him to come back? Loud. Clear. Everyone heard. Including Ethan's family. I leaned back in my chair. What happened next? Ethan took Marla aside. They had a long, tense conversation near the patio heaters. You could see his jaw moving but not hear what he was saying. Then he just left. Got in his car and drove off. Didn't even say goodbye. And Marla? Standing in the backyard in her white engagement dress. Makeup streaked. Like a ghost at her own party. There was a pause. Neither of us said anything for a beat. Then Eloise added, you were the only one who acted with integrity in this whole thing, you know. Everyone's whispering about it. And they're not whispering about you. When I got off the phone, I checked my business account. One new message, on the page for my restoration shop. It was from Ethan. Hey Lyle. I didn't know you were the one who paid for the venue. Just heard everything. I'm sorry for how you were treated. I also didn't know my dad was a sanitation worker for 11 years before law school. He told me that after all this happened. He said he'd be proud to stand next to you. I would too. You did the right thing. Ethan. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't need to. I screenshotted the message and saved it. Not to share, not to gloat. Just for myself. Proof that I wasn't wrong to draw the line. Proof that I wasn't small or petty or invisible. Just a man who had finally said no to being treated like less. It was a Thursday evening the week after I returned home when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I just finished going over some paperwork for a new parts supplier and was polishing a chrome intake manifold when I heard the knock, quick, sharp, impatient. When I opened the door, Gerald was standing there. My father. Looking worn and red-faced, a man who seemed like he'd spent the entire drive practicing his speech. Lyle, he said before I could even greet him. We need to talk. He walked in without asking. I didn't stop him. I simply watched as he surveyed my apartment, the workbench by the window, the tool racks, the folders and manuals laid out like a blueprint of my life he'd never once taken time to look at. You embarrass this family, he said, turning on his heel. I raised an eyebrow. How so? You left your sister out to dry. That event was important for her future, for all of us. She cried for days. Ethan's parents think we're disorganized. Disrespectful. Interesting, I said. Did you cry when you decided I didn't deserve an invitation? He waved his hand. Don't twist this. You knew what that money was for. Yes, I said. And you knew what not inviting me meant. He paced like a lawyer building his argument. You made it worse. You turned a private disagreement into a public spectacle. Evan's father asked me if we were feuding. Feuding. You could have just swallowed your pride. It was one party. One party, I repeated. The one I paid for. Gerald's voice rose. You could have just been the bigger man. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. I said. When I sent the 5,000. When I didn't ask questions. When I gave without conditions. You all made the choice to cut me out. He looked like he wanted to yell again, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the calm in my voice. Maybe it was the weight of the silence between us. She's your sister, he said finally, quieter now. She made a mistake. And you helped her make it. I was trying to protect her future. By erasing me? His face twitched. Like he wanted to deny it, but couldn't find the words. I stepped aside and opened the door again. If you're done, you can go. He stood there for a moment longer, like he wanted to say something else. But he didn't. He walked past me and out the door, his footsteps heavy down the stairs. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. 2 days later, my mother showed up. Delia. She came alone, wearing her peacekeeper smile, the one that always came out when she was trying to smooth something over without accepting any blame. May I come in? She asked, already stepping inside. I didn't stop her. But I didn't offer her tea either. She sat on the couch, brushing invisible crumbs off the cushion before she spoke. Lyle, your father told me about the conversation. And about Ethan's message. I think this has gone far enough. I agree, I said. It went far enough when you all decided I wasn't welcome. She took a slow breath. This isn't just about an invitation. It's about image. About perception. Ethan's family, they're very traditional. So traditional they'd approve of asking for money, but not having the decency to invite the person who gave it? You're being difficult. I'm being clear. She straightened. I'm worried about you, Lyle. You've always been so private. And now you're running some business out of a garage and turning away your own blood. That's not healthy. At that, I stood, walked over to my desk, and retrieved a folder. I handed it to her. Inside, tax filings, invoices, sales receipts, bank statements. Photos of restored car parts next to final sales prices. Pages and pages of numbers that told the story of what I had built. Her eyebrows lifted as she flipped through the documents. You made this much? Yes. She looked at the photos again. This is from junk? This is from work, I corrected. From time. From skill. From seeing value in things other people tossed aside. She looked up at me, lips parting. And then came the moment I was waiting for. You know, she said slowly, Marla and Ethan are looking at places in Brentwood. The rent there is, well, it's quite high. Maybe this could be a chance to support them, too. No. She blinked. No, she repeated, as if she'd never heard that word from me before. I'm not your safety net, I said. Not your secret benefactor. Not your scapegoat. Not your invisible son. I'm done. She stood, her smile gone. You've changed. No, I replied. I've just stopped pretending I don't see what's right in front of me. She didn't slam the door on her way out, but the silence she left behind was just as loud. That night, I took the last $1,200 from the refunded venue money and ordered a specialized plasma cutter I'd been eyeing for months. The next morning, I began clearing out space in one of my storage units for expansion. I didn't hear from Gerald or Delia for weeks. But I heard from Eloise. 3 of Marla's bridesmaids quit, she said over the phone, including Madison and Carrie. Apparently they found out how she treated you and wanted nothing to do with it. I smiled. They figured it out faster than my own parents. That's not even the best part, she continued. Ethan's mother has now decided the family should have weekly dinners to get to know each other better. But you're not there. So it's just incredibly awkward. And Marla? Smiling through it. But barely. And Ethan? Let's just say the glow is fading. Good, I thought. Let it fade. Some things were never meant to shine. A little over a month had passed since my mother's visit when the knock came again. This time, it was softer, hesitant. No fury. No entitlement. Just a light, almost uncertain tapping. When I opened the door, it was Marla. She stood there in a beige coat, her posture tense, her makeup lighter than I remembered. She looked different. Not in the way someone changes their hair or style, but in the way someone loses a fight they weren't prepared to have. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside without a word. She walked in like someone stepping into a church, her eyes scanning the room, not judgmentally, but quietly. She took in the neatly organized tools, the restored carburetor gleaming on the table, the folders of invoices. This is a real operation, she said softly. I nodded. I didn't know. I'm aware. There was silence. She wrung her hands, a nervous tick I hadn't seen since we were kids. Ethan and I broke up, she said. I didn't react. He said he couldn't marry someone who treats her family like staff. Said it reflected something about my character. Still, I stayed quiet. Her voice cracked. I didn't think it would hurt this much. I'm sorry, I said. And I meant it. Not because I wanted her back with him. But because she finally felt something close to what she had made me feel. I came here to say I was wrong. About the party. About everything. I thought if I just curated everything perfectly, no one would look too closely. And I was the blemish, I said. She didn't argue. She didn't deflect. Yes. That admission surprised me more than anything. I've started therapy, she added. Trying to figure out why I cared so much about being accepted by people I barely like. That's good, I said. That's a start. She looked around the room again. Mom said you're doing well. I am. Really well. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I used to think success looked like boardrooms and branding decks, she said. But you've built something real. Something that lasts. You didn't want me at your party because I didn't look like your version of success. She nodded. I know. And now you're here because you don't know what success looks like anymore. She blinked, eyes glossy. Maybe. There was a long pause. I know I don't deserve it, she said. But, do you think, maybe, someday, we could get a cup of coffee? I considered it. Not because I needed reconciliation. Not because I wanted revenge. But because I had nothing to prove anymore. The gap between us wasn't shame. It was clarity. Maybe, I said. Someday. She left without a hug. That felt right. We weren't there yet. But the door had cracked, just enough. The next few months were the most productive of my life. I expanded my shop, hired another assistant, and began shipping custom parts overseas. I got featured in a niche collector's magazine. I moved into a bigger space and renovated the original apartment into a quiet office. I never posted about the family fallout. But one day, I did post something on my business page, a photo of a restored 1964 Mustang manifold resting on a display rack, next to a plaque with the buyer's name. The caption read, "Not all value is obvious. Sometimes you just need someone who knows where to look." The message wasn't for Marla. Or Gerald. Or Delia. It was for me. Eloise called occasionally to keep me in the loop. "Your dad's telling people you're reclusive," she said one afternoon. "I'm focused," I replied. "Well, whatever it is, people are starting to see through the story. Especially now that you're on the cover of a collector's digest." She paused. "And your mom, she brought one of your old trophies out of storage. The one you won at the high school car show. Did she now?" "Put it on the mantel. In front of one of Marla's college photos." That said more than she realized. As for Marla, we did meet for coffee, once. We talked about things that mattered. Nothing fancy. No headlines. Just honesty. She apologized again, this time without any hint of performance. I told her that dignity wasn't something you owed people, it was something you claimed when no one else gave it to you. She listened. Maybe that's where it starts. It's strange, really. I paid for a party I wasn't invited to. Was discarded like refuse. And in doing so, I discovered something priceless. That being seen is a gift. But being undeniable is a decision. I didn't climb back for acceptance. I built higher than they ever expected me to. And I didn't need a seat at the table to know my worth. Sometimes, the real victory isn't in getting invited back. It's in watching them realize they should have never left you out. Thank you for watching the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, have a nice day.